We will do everything as civil society, together with, we hope, migrant organizations and many others, to put more pressure on those on the governments to perform better. And this is my last point. 3 points we can just to mention very quickly. First, how to step up the pressure on the governments that are not complying and making all these beautiful promises and not complying with them. We have, this year actually is a very important year, because in September, between September and December, there are 3, maybe even 4 international gatherings that could make a difference. The first one is on Accra, in Accra, the so-called Paris follow-up, Paris Declaration follow-up. In Paris 2003, it was 2005, not 2006 it was, March 2006, it doesn't matter. A very ambitious program has been agreed to harmonize the policies of donors and to make the aid effort of the northern countries, of European countries, of OECD countries more effective, and give it a higher quality. For instance, untying aid. Untying aid is that southern governments, poor governments, are not obliged to spend the aid in the countries where the aid comes from. Italy and the US are countries where almost all the aid needs to be spent in the country itself, which is very expensive for these developing countries. That's one thing that should change. Accra is going to assess to what extent OECD countries have complied with that. That will be in early September. Then in end September at the UN, there will be a kind of Millennium Plus 8 assessment, where many governments will be asked again, why are you making all these promises and why are you not complying with it? And what can you do more to do it? And that both appeals to governments in the north and in the south. Third one is again Doha. Doha has offered the capital of Qatar to host the so-called Monterrey +5 summit. It's an assessment of what has been achieved since 2003. Monterrey, beautiful promises were made on financing for development. I'm very skeptical about the outcome in Monterrey myself. At best, we get new promises, new commitments that will hardly be better. That they can't be better than what was agreed in Monterrey. Monterrey was not a super agreement, but at least set some milestones for foreign aid and financing for development. For instance, that aid should be pure, should be not, how you say that, vervuild, should be biased by, sorry?
No ulterior motives.
Yeah, that all kinds of expenditures, like for debt cancellation, Iraq and Nigeria, for instance, were incorporated in the foreign aid. These things were actually forbidden in the Monterrey Agreement, but they haven't been complied with. I believe very much that 2 things migrant organizations and civil society in general can do. One is so-called downward accountability, or participatory monitoring and budgeting. And that means that civil society, both in the north and in the south, has an important role to play to see if the money that flows in and the money in budgets of governments that promise in the south, promise in developing countries to spend that money on health, education, etc., to spend that really properly. And Mr. Roscoe mentioned already the problem of corruption. In my view, this is the major effort we as civil society, both in North and South, can make to address corruption. To train ourselves on assessing what are the flows of money coming in the health and education ministry, and do they really go to the places where they are targeted to schools, to hospitals, to salaries of teachers, etc. That's one big project. And Oxfam Novib is at the moment investing together with the other Oxfams a lot of money and efforts in that. And there is look at the website of the International Budget Project, and you see their efforts all over the world, in capacity building, training, where civil society and also migrants who go back to their own countries could play a role in that. The last point I want to mention is if it's true that we can't trust governments to achieve the MDGs, then we need to look at other ways to achieve them. And one way, I think, is that we could do that in the north and we could do that in the south, to live our lives differently, to spend, when we go to supermarkets, when we go to countries, to visit countries as a tourist, when we buy shoes, when we sport and use sport equipment, we can be more responsible in how we do that. And in the Netherlands there is a very interesting initiative called Fair Food, which is, I think, more promising and actually going beyond the efforts, like the very good efforts, by the way, of fair trade organizations like Max Havelaar and many ethical consumers efforts. But Fair Food has the advantage that it targets actually normal Dutch people and normal supermarket products. And what they actually do, very short, is they assess all the supermarket products. They come to an average, and every product that is beyond average on ILO criteria, not using child labor, these kind of things that we all agree about. Every above average product is promoted. Like a product like appelsientje, you find at every supermarket, is performing very well. So if you have to choose between appelsientje and other juices, then buy appelsientje. And if you do that in a more, now it looks very. I think this is possible if we manage to also in a smarter way inform people more broadly about this. And it's very simple. What you do is actually also name and shame those entrepreneurs, those companies that are not reaching the average. There are companies that don't want to collaborate with this. They are on a blacklist. And there are companies that are not transparent, they are on a grey list. And they don't like that. They're already performing better and try to perform better and try to become above average with their products. And this is a less ambitious ethical consumption approach than the bit elitist Max Havelaar and fair trade efforts. And I think it's very promising. And I'm involved one day in a week, aside my Oxfam Novib work, in a project to digitalize and to make this. For instance, it would be great if you have on your display, on your supermarket little car, an indication this is a good product in this sense and this not. So we need to make it much easier also for people to become informed about these things. Okay, this is something we can do everywhere, both in northern countries and southern countries, and what we try to export this also to the rest of Europe and to bigger markets in the south. I hope that together with migrant organizations we can do these three things in a much better way than we have been doing this in the past, and name and shame the governments who are not complying in that way, and forcing them to also to perform better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ted. Now, it is when I heard about MDGs a couple of years ago, and somebody told me, yeah, they talk about MDGs.